Hello, everybody. Welcome to Travelers Podcast, episode 19. We have a very special guest tonight, Mr. Brandon O'Neill, the voice of Prince Uldren himself. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Good to see you all.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Joining us also this evening, we got Angel Zero, Contrabang, and CrayZJaye. What's up, everybody?
What's going on, guys?
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
It's been a really interesting couple of weeks. A lot of stuff going on in the game, but we definitely want to start off talking to our guests this week. Brandon, sir, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, man. A little bit of a tech issue starting off, but like our viewers they're no strangers to that, so we're glad we got it working for you.
Yeah, look, you guys, it's not you. I mean, you're doing really well. I'm the one with like an ancient MacBook. I'm sitting here like with a tiny little camera. You guys are all set professionals, and I'm just struggling over here. But that's fine.
Oh yeah,
I'm happy.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah. I mean,
MacBook.
ladies and gentlemen, our guest tonight is known in the entire Destiny community as a badass prince. But little do you know that he's also known in the acting world and on stage for some performances that he does, even in Broadway. Am I correct?
Correct.
And on film. So, he's selling himself short over here. But, we're glad to have you. You gave life to, this community knows you for giving life to one of the most aristocratic and most loved characters on Destiny. On the space opera, Prince Uldren Sov. So, welcome, Brandon. Welcome to the show. We're going to go right ahead and start to crucify you. I'm going to let Helmet take over here in just a moment.
Interview.
No. I suppose we have a little bit of a format, but it's definitely going to be off the cuff. So I suppose one of the biggest things I was wondering is, where did you find your start in acting as a career? Like what really got you into that, and then ultimately leading up into the gaming industry?
Oh dear God.
Question. Sorry.
It's a good question. I just hope I don't bore you guys. So basically, I didn't start out acting. I started acting professionally when I was 29. Before that, I was like a rock and roll musician and just working odd jobs. And I moved to Seattle after in the early 2000s, looking to start a new band. And the first guy I met was writing a rock opera. And I didn't even really know what that was. But he's like, well, it's a stage play, but it's sung through, and it's a grunge era, like stage, rock opera. So he said, I need somebody to sing on the demo. I sang on the demo. He shopped it to some area theaters, and it got picked up for a couple of readings. So I read. He's like, well, since you know the music, why don't you just sing the songs? What do you think about saying the words of the script? And I was like, I guess so. I'm not doing anything. So I did that, and I must have had, an impact, because I had an artistic director, Brian Yorkie, came up to me. He's now Pulitzer Prize winning, Tony Award winning writer. He came up to me, and he was like, who are you? And I was like, I'm Brandon. He's like, we've got a show that your voice would be right for. So why don't you come and audition? So that one thing led to another. Wow. And I ended up in theater. Wow. And then once I booked enough theater and kind of figured out what I was doing, then it was like, well, what's the commercial side of this? What's, film? What's, what are my options as far as voiceover or any other, avenues? So it was just a matter of trying to put together a paycheck. And that's basically how I got into acting. It was not, it wasn't like I went to school, did all that stuff. I just kind of, I don't know, I had a knack for it, I suppose.
So you're not originally from Seattle?
I'm originally from Spokane, Washington, which is the east side of the state.
Oh, so you're familiar with that area. You're in the same area.
509.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Yeah.
and
I was stationed up in Seattle for a while, so up in the Navy base up there. So I'm familiar with the area. That's pretty cool.
All right.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because, The Rock and then Seattle. And then I read some of your background about getting drafted into doing some of the Seattle plays, Pirates of the what was it, Penzance?
Pirates of Penzance.
Penzance, all right. Beatsville, the Beatnik musical, and things like that. So So what drove you then to pursue that? What drove that passion in the beginning?
Well, music to begin with was really the driving passion, and how I got into like theater was through musical theater, just because I could sing, and not everybody in theater can sing, so that was kind of my first foray, which is so weird. You guys thinking about Prince Uldren singing right now?
Yeah, it's on the right now.
Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah, singing.
It'll
how many
happen.
hits-
Yeah.
You know
It'll
how many hits
happen.
on YouTube you would get if you did that? Like, dude.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe at Halloween time or something, I'll put something together.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, so it was kind of like, that was my way in. And then Seattle is actually known as a really, it's one of the powerhouse theater towns. It basically goes New York, Chicago, Seattle. People don't really know that, and that's okay by me, because then I don't have a lot of competition. I'm just kidding. It's great up here. And they do a lot of pre-Broadway development up here. So that's how I got involved with Aladdin. They did their pre-Broadway debut up here at the Fifth Avenue Theater, and I got cast in that, and then they took me to Broadway with them. So I was in New York for 2 years doing that. And then it was just time for us to move back as a family. I have 2 boys and a wife, and we moved back to Seattle. We just have a good life up here. It's just a good existence in Seattle. So for us,
So I've heard you describe Aladdin as sort of like a turning point in your career. Why is that?
Well, it was just prior to that was basically sounds shitty, but I mean, it was the first time I really took the craft seriously, because I fell into it. And before I knew it, I was just like working these jobs and doing these things. And I hadn't really put my mind into like, how far can I take this thing? Like, how far can I go with this as a career? Because theater was not something I thought of. In my 20s, that was not it for me. So finally at that point, I was like, let's see how far I can take this. And then having a Broadway credit and being able to work at that level with Tony Award winning designers and directors, and it's just a different level. And I mean, I'm in the rehearsal space, in New York City, and I get into the elevator with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. It's just like the people that you're running into, it's just a different level. So it was definitely a game changer. And I've been able to go back to Broadway and I did Bronx Tale, the musical, out there with Chaz Palminteri, and Robert De Niro was the co-director on that. So it was another really great group of people and artists, and just at the highest possible levels. Like, you got a dancer here, and then you got a dancer in New York, and it just will blow your mind.
How do you warm up for that? How do you prepare for that, going into that stage with Robert De Niro sitting down there?
It's hard to warm up for something like that. Like, when I auditioned for the piece, I was sitting outside the audition room, kind of working on my stuff, and it was taking longer than usual. And I'd waited almost 2 hours for my slot. And it was like late, and they finally had to take a break in the room. And I did not know Robert De Niro was in the room until he walked out to take a piss. Okay, so I'll be auditioning for Robert De Niro and Chaz Palminteri and Tommy Mottola and all of these crazy. So I went in, and he was sitting directly in the front row, in dead center.
No pressure.
He had a smile on his face, but he didn't say much. But it was weird. It was weird, to say the least.
Tommy Mottola is the president of Sony Records, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Who was married to Mariah Carey.
Wasn't it Talia?
I don't know.
Maybe he was married to Mariah. Now he's married to Talia. I don't know. Yeah. Show business.
Yeah, he's remarried. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So definitely some next level auditions and performances and opportunities to just network and meet. Wow. That's pretty mind blowing, actually. That's really something.
Theater was the way I got into Destiny as well. Because the original concept when I auditioned for this was a very theatrical audition, and they ended up hiring a theatrical director for the piece originally, before I was Uldren, when I was Crow.
Crow, yeah.
So it was one thing leads to another. You know, you just keep putting the work in, and that's 10 years into my career that things started popping for me. So I put in a lot of time, you know, not being.
So, as someone who didn't learn acting as a trade, what was the most difficult experience for you to learn, you know, the craft?
Probably a language barrier. Like the people who've gone to school for it will have a common language and they understand. You know, they start talking about Brecht and they start talking about, you know, all these different modes and ways of doing things. And I'm just like, well, I'm just trying to be a believable human being on the stage. There's that. So that was probably just the code. You know, it's like.
Right, and this is early 2000s, so YouTube probably wasn't that, you know, full of videos that have all these, you know, easy tutorials that now you can do. If you want to,
I probably wouldn't do that anyway. I mean, no offense to anybody who does those tutorial videos, but I don't know.
So how do you warm up a voice?
I would more be along the lines of like, live some life, and be observant. And listen really well, and those are, you know, some main keys of acting well. You got to listen well, because if you're not having a conversation, people are going to know it. They're going to be like, he's not listening to that person.
Yeah.
And this translates also to the motion capture, correct? Because you did a lot of the motion capture during the original Destiny, and
right.
Some of the motion capture on Destiny 2. For which characters were they?
So I've done a lot of the stuff for Zavala, for Gaul, for the Spider.
Oh, nice.
And the player as well.
The player.
Yeah.
So this goes into play into what you're saying. If you can't go out there and observe the body language of someone, how do you just create the body language from a voice from your point of view? You're giving the voice of Zavala, and then you have to act it out. How do you go about that?
That's a good question. You kind of get a sense of what they're going for, and a lot of times the script will have some descriptors like this is, and I had seen reference of Zavala, you know, so I knew what he was about. I knew that, you know, the whole Titan thing, and he was very militaristic, and he was all about protecting and guarding. So I gave him a little more gravitas and kept him really grounded. Nothing got really wild until he got upset when, you know, the traveler was encased and he punched the table. That was like the biggest amount of kind of craziness you would see Zavala.
So Zavala is voiced by Lance Reddick, who we know obviously from movies. I met him really on Fringe as the FBI agent, Philip Broyle. He was also on Quantum Break and other video games. More recently in John Wick 2.
Yeah. Good series.
So when you know the actor, do you take some of their previous work into mind, or do you just go with your gut?
No, I just go with my gut.
The acting's based more on the scripts, not so much the actor, right?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to focus in on like the character and what's the character's emotions and what's their body language and their physiology, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I mean, the way we had been doing it lately is I would get Lance's, you know, voiceover. They'd put it on the speaker in the room, and then in the motion capture volume, and so I would hear his take on it. I'd have to memorize all of his lines, memorize where he breathes, memorize where he grunts, and then come up with movement that makes sense for that. So it's a bizarre it's a bizarre way to do it, but I feel lucky, you know, that I got a chance to do more than just Uldren in the game.
So did you do the mocap scene where you know, they're in the where the casket is, and it's the argument between Zavala and Ikora? So you did the mocap for Zavala in that scene?
Yes.
So how did that feel when it's like, it's fun? It's kind of got to be an interesting parallel, because you voice Uldren, who killed Cade, but now you're mocapping Zavala, who's like, you know, basically grieving, and, you know, And then he tells, I love the line. He's like, "Say it," and she's like, "Cowardice." And I'm just
Yes.
like that's there's so much weight in the air in that scene. So like, how was that experience for you
Well,
with those
luckily,
parallels?
yeah, luckily, you take one scene at a time, and you have to. It's kind of like film that way, in that it's not linear. So it's not like from, we started at the beginning of the story and got to play it all the way through like theater. This is like we take a chunk here. The next time you come in, you're doing the chunk before that. The next time you come in, you're 3 years down the line. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But the other cool thing about what we did is that there were other actors in the room with me in the volume in mocap suits. Allison and Richard are part of we call them our cinematic team. So the three of us have done, so she does all of the Ikora stuff. She does, oh God, name some of the other female.
Petra Benj.
Petra Benj, she does.
Okay.
But all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
she does almost all of the female, aside from the Queen. She does the female player stuff a lot. And then Richard Sloniker, of course, he did all the player stuff. He did Sweeperbot. He did.
Okay. That's awesome.
And he did, most importantly, he did Cade. He did all of the iconic stuff for Cade. But in that scene, he was the player. So he was the guy to first say the line, "Uldren Sov is mine." Like that was
man.
Richard able to. It was a cool moment. So to have other
was.
I can look at, and go through these emotions with, and we're all really invested. Everybody's a pro, so that makes it a little bit easier because you can be in the moment. And we all love Cade. I mean, all of the actors in the room and all of the developers, we love Cade. So it was a big turn, and I remember reading that script for the first time, and I was like, oh.
Everyone's gonna hate me.
All right.
Yeah. What? Yeah. When you found out. Yeah.
Aw, kitty Cade.
When you found out, like you said, you got the script for the first time. Like, what was your initial reaction when you found out for the first time that Uldren is gonna kill Cade?
I think I may have sworn.
Yeah, he's like, oh crap.
Yeah, it was like, and when I think I went and talked to my wife about it, it was just like, it's happening, hon, because Bungie,
it's happening.
I know. Well, I mean, that's the truth of the matter, is like to have Uldren go from, sidekick to the Queen and everybody's favorite guy they love to hate, to the central villain in the piece was just like a dream come true. Like that.
I can imagine,
and
man.
we had
That
talked
sounds
about
so
it.
cool.
Again, I'd been working on this piece since 2011. So
Wow.
my journey took wild swings in different directions as they were trying to figure out exactly what story they wanted to tell and from what perspective. So to have Uldren come back in such a crazy, awesome way was really exciting. Really, really exciting.
Well, your contribution to the character is also what makes him so detestable. I feel like you have influenced a lot of, added up to the character some of the influences from French Princess, or maybe some of that disdain and nobility of character, but also, I don't know, some pettiness into him. How did that come about, changing him from the original character of the Crow and then now into this Uldren Sov, who we hate?
A lot of it was inspired by the writers, and we have some incredible. The narrative team at Bungie is so wildly creative and imaginative, and they give such good things on the page. So they wrote him. Those first few scenes when he's like, so. These are the trespassers demanding an audience. He had an attitude. It was on the page.
Yeah,
so
he was
like,
real
this
arrogant,
guy,
man.
Yeah, this guy is like, does not care that these heroes think they're going to save the world. He could give two shits.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How does that line end? I think he goes something like, "Do you think their queen is available for any riff-raff that washes
yeah,
up?"
no, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, I don't see why she should be made available for the likes of you or
washed
something.
up beef, but here we are.
Yeah. yeah.
Ever since
So,
then, we all wanted to kick his
I was
butt.
like, oh,
Yep.
really? I'd like to.
Yeah. I'd like
Yeah.
to.
Wasn't a fan of
That's
him.
fun. I mean, that's fun. That's fun to be memorable in any way in a video game is great.
Well,
So
talking to you now, you're obviously a friendly, straight up guy, and so how do you? Is there any of you in Uldren Sov, or is this just all construct and powerful acting?
yeah, it's just really powerful acting. No, it's I've always enjoyed being. I guess that's what makes me a decent actor is that I actually enjoy being someone else. And in the public eye, I would rather be someone else than to be myself. It's not as comfortable. Like it's a little more naked when you're having to like reveal who you really are. And I tend to be just more jovial and loose, and just because I don't, my look is kind of I don't know, like you don't want to meet me in an alley. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know about that guy, but
Anyway,
All right,
so
so we're going into some deep psychological troubling issues. Keep going.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mother.
blood, that's when you need to stop. No.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as pieces of me being in Uldren, I think you're starting to see it now. Just his loyalty and his love of family and his belief in a bigger cause. I think those things I can resonate with. And also just being a space alien. I mean, that's probably something I'm not. I'm just kidding. Yeah. So those are things that I can get. A very powerful self. Personally, I do have a very powerful sister. So having a dynamic woman in your life is always, makes it interesting. So
what would you say is Uldren's most powerful personality trait that you would admire? Or that you would want players to admire, knowing that you know the internal thinkings of Uldren?
I think his loyalty is something to be admired, and because that wasn't a lie when he said it's loyalty to a sister and a queen to a people. This is something he truly does believe in, and he spent his whole life researching the Awoken, their origins and trying to understand kind of the mixture inside of him. I think, and his battle, his kind of with the darkness and the light inside of him. I think that's something we can all get down with, like, because I've, personally in my journey have had moments of darkness and moments of, joy. So being able to navigate, knowing that there's a part of you that you don't like all that much, or there's a part of you that you hide, or, those are real human things. So those are things that I get down with.
Yeah.
And let's
Angel,
flip it around one more last time on the topic.
We got so many questions.
What did you draw on for the bad?
For the what?
For the bad.
Oh, bad? Well, I personally have a little bit of I kind of have it out for corporate structure. I kind of have it out for power systems and people who think they know what's right for everyone else. So those are kinds of things that when the city thinks that they have the answer for the whole universe of, humanity and the Awoken and everybody else, those are things that I'm like, yeah, I see that happening in my world, and I definitely buck that kind of, mentality.
I feel like, Uldren and Zavala, even though we never seen them on screen together, I'm pretty sure they won't get along at all.
No.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah,
Probably not getting drinks together.
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
How'd the whole like Destiny project start with you? Like, did they call you, or how'd that all begin?
I have an agent who gave me what they call a breakdown. So it comes as an email and it says, here, they want to see you for this. Are you available? I said, absolutely, I want to be seen for this. So I went in and I went into a room and there was a casting director in there, a person behind the camera. There was a person from Bungie as well. And they just kind of ran me through the paces. I remember at one point I was up on top of a chair, like with a gun, like pointing down at the player, and I had to give my lines and do all that kind of thing. And they had me do a couple different takes with some different, they had me take my coat off. They wanted to see my tattoos. Like, it was like, and that's because it wasn't just a voiceover audition. Normally you'd get those things, you send in a voice clip, and if they like your voice, they're going to use you. It's not exactly that simple, but they wanted the person to do the motion capture, the facial, and the voice. So it's a little different. in that regard.
So, Uldren, how's your
Yes, ma'am.
sister?
She's been waiting to do that.
I don't know
Like,
I mean,
really?
just how much you're protecting against spoilers and stuff like that. But I mean, just recently on Twitter, like there's these new pictures of her.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
Yep.
huh.
Yep.
her. Is anybody out there? Is anybody there yet?
I think
Oh yeah,
Owen
we're
I got
good.
there.
You're good.
I got
Okay.
there. Yeah, you can talk
Yeah.
about it.
All right.
Yeah. So
Without
Cool.
giving
I mean-
anything away, what do you think about this production is going to go and blow people's minds?
oh, man, there's so many. They keep surprising us. And the thing with the cinematics team doesn't necessarily get like the actors don't necessarily get all of the other gameplay things that are happening. Like those are surprises to us too. So I didn't, like I wasn't aware that Petrovenge would lead you to the place where you had to make the offering, and then you'd get to hear Mara's voice. Like I didn't know that was going to happen. So and part of that is just because they don't need to inform us of all that stuff. Because my job at that point is done with Uldren, and we're moving on to other things, So the next call that I might get from them will be for a Zavala, to capture some more Zavala stuff or to capture more Spider stuff. So, yeah.
Are you kind of sad or upset that Uldren Saw's role is over now? Or supposedly, unless there's something we don't know about.
Yeah,
Yes, it
no,
is.
I mean, there.
Yes.
I can't speak into. I actually, like I said, they don't tell us everything at Bungie. But I can say that it's a very satisfying arc that he took in Forsaken. To die the way that I died was worthy. I thought. I feel like they gave way more than they maybe needed to a character that was kind of,
A sidekick.
a sidekick.
Yeah.
So, I'm really proud of his journey, and think he died, in a worthy way. So
It was weird because when I first saw him, I was like, okay, I don't like him. He seems like a jerk. But then, when we saw the trailer and there's obviously something wrong with him, I was like, I still hate him, but there's obviously something going on.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a little bit. It's hard to be like 100% I hate him when you see that he really is genuine to his family, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that is such a humanizing moment that I think all the Destiny community would agree that we all feel the same way in that, right? It's like, man, I can't hate you all the way now, but I got to do what I got to do. You understand, right?
Yeah.
You killed Kane.
Yeah. A price had to be paid. for
Yeah.
sure. So.
I mean, you only unleashed a taken dragon on the Dreaming City. I mean, I get
No
it.
big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you guys, so you can have your fun. I guess I'll die. That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with it, you know.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel when Kate's gonna be back alive and you aren't?
What?
Um,
Kate's dead.
He's
He's
done.
done.
I'm sorry. She's in denial. So
let
still
me
mine.
hope,
Let it-
okay?
we moved
Maybe
on.
Let me
some
dream.
like montages of his life, you know.
I put
Who
one of
knows?
those out actually. Yeah.
You did?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's
Well,
But
I. Mhm.
if you could pick any other character to voice act for in Destiny, who would it be?
great question.
Man, that's a tough one.
Are you familiar with a lot of the extended universe, like with the other characters in the lore that we
Ah.
may potentially see in the future? Like what was
Shin Malphur.
Kay's mentor? Well, there's Shin Malphur, who
Oh,
there's Kay's mentor, was Andal Brask.
he's dead now.
Well, is he? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, no,
I just
I mean,
didn't know if
and
there's any other
I'm
characters
just
you would.
scratching the surface on a lot of the extended lore stuff.
Mhm.
Okay. There's a
I'm
ton.
learning
Yeah.
things. It's,
Yeah,
it's
there's
so like I remember
It's deep.
day one in 2011 when I showed up at Bungie. They said they had written 2,000 years of history
Whoa.
for
Wow.
this game.
We didn't know that.
So there's
That's
like there is
crazy.
so much has gone into this, and they are going to take you in places that you will not expect. So
Heard it here first, folks.
yeah, it's. I
Holy
mean,
cow.
it's so deep. It's so deep and wide. They've got the universe that they have created is, and like I said, they've got a team there that's just incredible imaginations, and they've lived with this now for a long time, so they can let their mind wander and take you out and there are several people, you know, at a time, bringing content and being like, well, here's a spin, what do you think of this, what do you think of this? So it's exciting. We've got a lot of life left with this game, so it'll be cool as people keep plugging in and keep playing and leveling up, and it's gonna be like, yeah, that should be cool.
That's crazy.
So I do have a
2,000
question about
years.
your experience. Obviously, like you said, 2011. That's 7 years of working behind the scenes with many of the different actors and many of the different voices and portrayals of the characters. Which of the lines that you've ever done for this character is your favorite?
Well, I mean, my last line is got to be, it's just truth. You know.
Oh, the thin line
Yeah.
between light and
Yeah.
dark.
The
That
line
yeah.
between light and dark is so very thin. Do you know which side you're on?
Yep, sure do.
I don't know anymore. I don't know. I
Yeah.
shot
That's
Uldren.
Yeah.
Well,
Boom.
But also,
Yep.
that's very meta nowadays. You know, even with movies like Star Wars, for example, you'll
Yeah.
have that. It's always been the dark side and the light side, and now we're seeing more. Well, maybe it's the gray side. You gotta have a little bit of darkness and a little bit of light.
I
to
do like
actually
that
understand
dynamic with the
both.
Awoken very much, actually.
It's I feel like this game's going towards that direction where it's the thin line between, because now we have Drifter there too, and Drifter is kind of
Straight up, he's straight up
This
evil.
fish.
I'm gonna be, yeah, he's sketchy.
He's sketchy. He's sketchy. There's something going on with him. I mean, I don't know if you guys know about the lore. He killed his whole fire team. So yeah.
Oof. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
All the
Yes.
gambit motes are actually motes of like darkness, and we're collecting them for him, and he's carrying around his little ball ship, which is like its own little taken pocket dimension. So he's a crooked character for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't spent any time in the room with that dude.
I don't. Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if the worlds will collide in any way where he'd be.
I don't think he'll be evil.
I got
Zavala
one.
would be involved, or
I got one
Yeah.
for you, Brandon. So if Prince Uldren is, as he is, if he were to come into contact with such a sketchy character like the Drifter and they were to meet, what do you think that, it would be some kind of confrontation, because Uldren backs down from nobody and the Drifter sure ain't scared of anybody. He killed his own fire team. So if these two were to meet, what do you think they might say? And if you feel like acting that out, what do you think they would say to one another, like as a taunt? Like,
hey, Uldren, I'm inviting you for a beer.
yeah. all right.
All right. Oh my God.
I don't know. If you guys got any lines for me, I'll say them as Uldren. I can't. What did I say?
Actually, I do have something if you're willing to do it, but it's more after a little bit more of the conversation. It's viewer questions, and if you could do a little role playing depending on the question, then that's really up to you.
I'm so scared. Do it. Whatever. I'm down.
All right, so we can then get ahead and go for it. First question comes from Polaris 4567. If you existed in the world of Destiny, which classes would you pick, and which of the different races would you pick? Awoken, human, or Exo? And what was your first reaction to seeing Uldren for the first time?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I tend to like. Don't judge. I like the hunter because that's closer to my kind of the way I approach the world. And the Awoken are just so cool, just so beautiful. That would probably be my Awoken hunter. And the original Crow design was basically that. Like he was out in the wild.
The same stuff a hunter does.
Exactly.
He really does.
Yeah, he was Yeah.
Polaris is so happy at your choice.
And the first time I saw the renderings of Uldren, it was it kind of took me back a bit, just because it was like it was so cool looking, and the fact that he looked similar to me if I was a slightly more beautiful, bluer person, but it was like you could tell that was there. My bone structure was in there, and at different angles. And what's really weird is in one of the cutscenes. I think it's in the throne room. Is it in the throne room? They do a close up of his face, and you can see this tiny little bump on his face, his skin. You can see this tiny bump on his skin, and I was like, oh my God, that's literally the bump on my skin. Like they used the map of my actual face to kind of help make that skin look
So
real.
did they have cameras recording your face during the motion capture?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The whole time. So I wear this rack. It kind of sits out to about here, 2 arms, and then the camera's out here. So it kind of looks like walleye vision. It's a tiny little camera, and then a microphone on my helmet. So they were capturing all of the expressions the entire time. So, and there were other several teams working on this gigantic video game. So there were times where I was being caught by the camera doing the work. And then there were times where I just did reference material. So they would film us, like Mara and I, in a couple of those scenes. They just filmed us. We were in our suits, but they filmed us, got close-ups, got side views, several different cameras in the room. And then they would give it to another team, sometimes in Hungary or in LA or New York. And these people would take those references and create content on those references. So there was a lot of different ways to get this incredible game. And it's freaking beautiful. It really is. It's a beautiful... Forsaken is beautiful.
They have some of the best. Bungie has always been known for some of the best skyboxes in gaming, and they just really triple down on that with this expansion. It's I was just tweeting out one of the new PvP maps that just went live yesterday or something. The Citadel is in the Dreamy City, and I looked at the skybox and it blew me away. It was insane. I
gotta say though that they did last on the Uldren thing. Mm-hmm. The haircut wasn't my favorite, but the original rendering had this white in it that you see now. He's got this little thing,
streak of white. Yep.
It was one of the original renderings that I loved had this white streak, and I was like, now that's cool. And then they took it out. So, again, 6 years ago did they had this like in the timeline? Like, who knows? So that yeah, that's cool.
I got a couple of community things here from a user Cloud LXXV. So his question is, what is your personal favorite line for Uldren out of all of D1 and D2? And then I have one more thing to add to that when you're done. What do you think your favorite line is for that character?
Like I said, the last line, and then the one that was fun to do was also let's see if I can remember it. It's when I have you go get the Vex Gate Lord head, and he's like, "What do you need with the Vex? Gate? Why do you need the head of a Gate Lord?" And I say, "Oh, we don't."
Yeah.
Or he says, yeah, I can't remember exactly the lines. You guys are having me dig back here, and I'm trying. But he's being, he's an ass in that moment. He's like, "Oh, go collect it. We don't really need it, but good luck."
He said something like, "Can you tell us where the Black Garden is?" And Uldren's like, "Oh, everyone knows where it is, but it's if you can get in," or something like that, right?
Yeah. Oh man, you're good.
We'll make you a key, but you'll probably die anyways. It's something. It's something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Cloud actually. Yeah,
Cloud, you guys. Yeah, type it up.
Sorry. Cloud also wanted to ask, he said to bring up something that you'd know exactly what it is as soon as I said it, and it's Traveler's Crack. Can you explain?
That was. It would be like a swear word, or a way to say "holy crap" or something. Back in the day, Crow, when he was the Han Solo of the game, he said "Traveler's Crack" in one of the scenes, and I read it, and I was like, "What?" And I took it to the directors, and they were like, "Yeah, it's basically like it's like saying, well, something bad has happened, like holy shit, or God." Dang it! Traveler's Crack.
Traveler's Crack.
Something I never got to say in the game. Maybe it'll come back in some way, in some form.
Funny,
you guys just, raise the flag. We need Traveler's Crack put in somewhere. Who could say it? Who would say that now? Probably Kate.
It had to be Asher Mir, dude. It'd have to be Asher Mir, because he gets so worked up about everything, right? I'll spare you the vagaries of endless praise. It's not good for the mind. I could just see him saying something like that, and like, "Oh, the blasted Cabal Traveler's Crack."
Oh man, that's hilarious.
What if Uldren? So from Leonation, forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. Leonation asks if Uldren now knew that Mara. What would happen if Uldren knew, if he was still alive and he knew that Mara was actually alive? Well, what do you think his reaction would be? I mean, I would assume he'd be pretty happy, but I mean, through all that,
Yeah, he would definitely be happy. I think he'd probably be a bit confused. Obviously, he was through that entire. Through the entire Forsaken, he was, he wasn't in touch with reality all the way. So I think if maybe he wouldn't know if he was dreaming or not, if this was really in front of him anymore, he's traumatized for sure.
He got sucked up by a meatball with tentacles, and
I'm sorry, but that was a surprise to me. They told me that was going to happen, right? That I was going to be ingested.
Okay. That's all they said.
Part of that is actually a technical. I think I'm not going to get in trouble for saying that, but part of that is just technically. Like if you're fighting me, and I'm across the room, and it's not like I'm a big ogre, so I'm going to be like this tiny little, like thing that you'd have to fight. So they had to make, I think, a bigger. I think with that amount of play, the amount of screen time that was going to have and the amount of moves and shots it was going to have to take, I think it's just a technical. That's why they needed the meatball.
the meatball servitor.
Meatball servitor.
It's gruesome though, dude. It's grody. I mean, I
It
remember
reminds me
I was like,
now. This might show my age a little bit, but it reminded me of Little Shop of Horrors. Like, feed me Seymour, like the plant, right? It kind of reminds me of the plant, the way he looked. I know a lot of people aren't going to know what that is, but it's a great Rick Moranis movie from back in the day. So if y'all ever get a chance. So no idea that was coming, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I knew that there was going to be some other being, but I didn't know what it was going to look like until I saw it on the screen. I was like, oh.
Authentically meatball.
I thought legitimately that we were going to get robbed of our chance to kill you because you got swallowed up by this meatball. Like, I was like, wait, how are we going to kill him? You just sucked him up. Like, what the hell is this?
No, you got your cake.
Well, we don't know who pulled the trigger now, do we?
It's headcanon. Bungie leaves up to interpretation. I like to believe that.
I did. Okay.
If you listen to the end cutscene, you hear two shots.
Both guns. Yeah,
you hear
it's like
two
they
shots.
both go off.
You hear the Ace of Spades, and you hear like the Vestian Dynasty as well. Yeah. But then they leave it up to your head. You don't know.
There's probably some divided camps in that arena. Like I don't know the answer. So, but divided camp on that one for sure.
Someone asked, who was it? Wolf Hero 28. Going into the mind of Uldren, what would be his thoughts of Riven?
Well, didn't he gave that present to his sister?
He knew about Riven. Right.
This is one of the things I think he was protecting, and he's protecting. Why he didn't want the Guardians poking around his stuff and his world and anything to do with the Awoken. Was because he knew that there was powerful magic, and he was dabbling, I think, and he was, and the thing probably outgrew his knowledge, like it got bigger than what he could handle, so it's probably cordoned off for a reason. But I think he'd be in awe. I mean, it's such a terrifying. God, I watched my son play through the whole thing, and then he had to go start high school. So he hasn't gotten enough, leveled up enough to like go and do the raid. But I got to watch some YouTube stuff of people going in it. Who was it, Glad or GLA?
Yeah, Glad.
Got first. That was kind of cool to see. And to see that what their version of a dragon was really like.
Right? I know. I was really surprised.
Well, the Amkars are shapeshifters too, so we don't know that that's her true form or not too. It could be what she wants us to see, or what whoever controlling wants her to see. Sabathun wants us to see. I don't know.
And now she's more powerful, and I'm like, what the hell, man? Like they really.
Way to go, guys.
Yeah, I know. No, what an awesome twist, right? Like we finished the raid, and every other expansion before this one, it was like that was the end game. That was it. We were done. This is the beginning, and it's like we fell into Riven's trap. Like this is what she wanted, and we're like, oh. And now if you look at the Dreaming City, it's all just like,
is it what Riven wanted, or is it what?
Dreaming City, you don't look so good, man. You need to take some. You need to get some medicine, dude. You're not taking City. It's not looking so good. So I'm just like, wow.
So there is a question from Layla Nashton on the chat. And she asked, given that there's conventions like Guardian Con and things like that, do you plan or do you have in your future plans attending any of those or doing requests for voice clips for any of those?
I'd love to. Nobody's reached out. So you guys get on the horn for me and just be like, we want to see Uldren.
You heard it, chat. Type it in. Make it happen.
But I suspect.
And bro, man.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
I would love to do. No, I know. Kristen Potter, I don't know if she wants to go out and do that. She's a very busy woman, and she's extraordinarily talented, so she works all the time. But I would love to make like an Awoken royalty appearance at something cool.
You have to cosplay as the character, though.
I totally would. I totally would.
And with your
I'd probably kill myself after a while. Like, why did I?
I'll say
Why'd I
this.
get this blue makeup everywhere?
Guardian Con, yeah, that's a good thing to consider because Guardian Con is in Tampa, Florida, and it is swamp ass extreme. So just it's traveler's crack, okay?
Traveler's crack.
Yeah, it's legitimately the makeup will run. Yeah, hey, maybe it'll run like this, so it makes it look like you got that Taken ribbon effect on it. Hey,
Well, yeah, that's maybe part of the cosplay now has got to be a little bit of
like Taken, yeah.
Yeah, black
Oh,
thing
that's
on there.
cool. Everyone in chat likes that idea, by the way.
Go something and meet you guys face to face, and press some palms and be fun.
I know the people that run Guardian Con are very soon to make an official announcement on dates and times. It'll be next summer probably if they hold to their track record. But yeah, we'll have to make something happen, man. That would be something.
Yeah, dude.
Amazing.
Be dope.
They'd let you in for free, by the way.
They better.
You'd hope.
You would be an attraction.
I died for you.
Yeah, I died. Yeah, you did.
Wait a minute. No, you died. Go to the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to
kill
Hollywood.
Kate?
I mean, Tampa. Yeah.
You kill Kate? No, you got to pay.
No,
Yeah.
all of you in the crowd shot and killed me. You're not getting any autographs.
Although if you cosplay as Uldren and then go into like this pie throwing place, maybe you'll get in for free.
You know what? Here's the thing. I would do something like that for all of you twisted MFers, but I would charge a shit ton of money.
Hey, actually,
you can still buy it, Uldren, but it's gonna cost you a lot of money. Dude.
okay. Now that's the catalyst we need to get you to Guardian Con. Because here's the deal: they raise money for St. Jude, and this year they raised 2.7 million. If you were to come and cosplay as Uldren, and then you had a booth, and it was like, pie Uldren in the face for charity, dude.
Okay,
We
I
gotta
don't care
decide
how
now.
much money it would cost me. I
You know
would
how
throw
much
at
money
least
you would
5.
raise? Like you would raise so much money for charity by doing that. We got to make that happen, man.
Oh my god.
All right, somebody in chat clip this and send it to Broman now.
Yeah, send it to Dr. Roman and Kevin, K Magic, and let's you heard it here first.
Make this happen for this guy.
I think right before, I think it might have been before the D2 release, or it might have been right after the D2 release. I was in Tampa, or I was in, near Tampa doing a theater piece. And it was the next week, I was leaving on like a Sunday, and that following week was going to be Guardian Con. So it was I almost stayed and just like made an appearance, but it just didn't work out. So maybe, yeah. I mean, or you all come up here to the PAX up here or something, like come to Seattle.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I know. Make it easy,
Sure.
right? Hey, yeah, that's the way to do it for sure.
I would love to.
Well, I know after this expansion and what you've been able to do to further expand on the character and really dig into the root of who he is, and you, sir, have absolutely made an impression on the community like no other, and we thank you for that. Your performance was top notch. Seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody in the community right now that's gonna, that wouldn't want to see you at a convention or something like that. Like everyone, like when I put it out there that you were coming on the show, I had at least 15 individual DMs being like, "Hey, put a shout out, tell them, we want to have them too," and just that's what you've done for us, man, and it's really cool. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys. I mean, this community is always, everybody's so passionate. Everybody's, I get to see people face to face, and everybody's just so cool. I mean, it's just a good group of people who like to play games and, leave the world behind for a while and go do something else, and, like-minded individuals. So I appreciate y'all for sure.
So your middle school turning into high school kid, what does he think about you playing a character on a video game?
Oh,
that's got to be like the coolest.
Oh, my middle school guy would be like, "So you're on Mario Brothers? What?" They're like, "You're on Pac-Man? Where?" No, no. He'd be pretty. It's pretty cool, and I get some cool points with my kids because I've got a boy who's a freshman in high school and a boy who's actually a sophomore in college now. But, they say, well, my dad's in Destiny. Who is he? Now, when they say Uldren Sob, everybody knows who that is.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's really cool. So
That's amazing.
Hold on a second. I just got a. Now this is weird. I just got. I just got a text from Richard Sloniker, the guy who did all the mocap for Cade, and he said, "Hey, hey, we just appeared on Jeopardy in a video to the $1,000 clue for video games category."
whoa.
What?
Wow.
It was Gaul knocking the Guardian off the command ship. Was the little video clip, and they
Oh,
were like,
wow.
"What game is this?" I guess. So that's
Wow.
pretty sweet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice.
What is Destiny 2?
Hey, we made it on Jeopardy, folks. We did it.
That was I was that scene. I was Gaul, and I kicked the player off the command ship.
Nice.
That's a kick his ass. That's pretty good.
Yeah, right.
I've got
We
a
have time for one
two-part-
more.
Yeah, we got time for one more question. I've got a two-part here from Wolf Hero. So originally he had mentioned, what kind of chaos would ensue if Uldren got resurrected as a guardian? And then if so, what are your thoughts on that? Like how, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't remember who he was or what he did or anything.
I'm gonna leave that to y'all lore mongers. Like, I have no.
So when a guardian comes to life, they don't have any memories of their previous life whatsoever, who they were, their name, anything. They wake up and it's like they're adult, but they don't remember anything.
Right.
So
I
like
remember
if
watching
Uldren,
that thing with Zavala, like you see him.
yeah.
Yeah, that. I don't know. I'd be down, but I have.
He'd wake up. Why does everybody hate me?
Yeah, it'd be a cold, cold world for Uldren Saw.
He'll go to the tower and Zavala and Korra just hate him. Like, why do you guys hate me? What did I do?
Yeah. I believe Ikora's had the most aggressive thing to say. She was like, "I want to mount the head of that son of a bitch." And I was just like, he wasn't
anytime soon, not anytime.
She wasn't playing, man. Well, all right, guys. Yeah,
So
we gotta wrap up
before
the
we
show.
go, let's hold a virtual seance here and bring Uldren back from the dead. Let's welcome the Dark Prince to the channel. Copyright Bungie, copyright whoever. Your Highness, welcome. What is your message to the crowd that is watching this stream right now?
So, these are the trespassers demanding an audience. I see no reason she should make herself available for whatever washes up at the reef. But here we are.
Oh, man.
Yes.
So freaking
Yes. Yes. So much.
All right.
So
Oh my
freaking
God.
good.
Wow.
So before we conclude the interview, sir, if there's anything else that you would like to add, now is the time for you to do it.
Oh, go follow me on Twitter and stuff and Instagram.
Please tell people where everyone can follow your works and anything upcoming too.
Yeah, that's where I'm posting things. And then I've got a website, brandon-o'neill.com, that I try to keep updated with like my new theater things happening, some photos on there, some fun, you can follow my career there. And then there's a Facebook page that, gets some attention every once in a while. But you guys have been keeping me busy on Twitter. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
And Instagram too. So yeah, come find me. Let's chat.
Got links in the chat, folks. Well, all right. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Jay, where can everybody find you?
Find me on twitch.tv/CrayZJaye. I'll be streaming shortly after this.
Mr. Contrabang?
You can find me right here every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. So come back.
Miss Angel?
You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at angel_Z3RO and on Twitch at angelZ3RO.
My name is The Helmet Fire. You can follow me on Twitter at The Helmet Fire. You can check out my YouTube as well. Sometimes I do some kind of cool Destiny-related content. If you like the show, you like what you're listening to, and you like what you're viewing, you can check us out on Twitter at Travelers PC. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search Travelers Podcast. You can follow the stream here every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/Travelers Podcast. We're also on SoundCloud and iTunes, so make sure to hit us up there. Once again, thanks so much to the chat for being active and helping support our special guest this week. we really appreciate having you on, Brandon. It's been quite an honor, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. I'm honored to be on. So keep playing, you guys. They're going to keep surprising you.
Sounds good.
Follow.
All right, everybody. We'll see you right here next time on Trap Wars.